We're all excited about tomorrow. It's the start of the season. We've got new signings and everything seems rosy, albeit we're up against a formidable opposition. But how's Pellegrini feeling about tomorrow? And I feel that there's something, a story, a narrative that's gone under the radar, that's gone unnoticed. And it's about Pellegrini's relationship with Manchester City. Yes, everybody knows he's the former Manchester City boss, but what does that actually mean? And I think to work it out, you've got to understand the history of it and remember the history. Mark Hughes was in charge of Manchester City. They got taken over by the Abu Dhabi royal family. Became mega rich, and Mark Hughes' style of football wasn't going to be good enough for them, and he just wasn't their choice. Sheikh Mansour wanted his own man in place. They bought Manchester City, and for years and years and years, the red half of Manchester, their foes, their City neighbours, had been winning and sweeping all before them. City wanted to win the league. City wanted a trophy, so they brought in Roberto Mancini, who delivered precisely that trophy. But as with any of these things, once something's been achieved, people start talking about the next level and the next step, as any ambitious club should do. But there was a feeling with Mancini that he delivered the league title through pragmatism, through a lot of defensive work, through grinding out results. Yes, he had flair players, but there was a feeling amongst the City fans that actually, a lot of the time, some of the time, he played quite negative and defensive football. There was also a feeling, having said that, that he wasn't perhaps performing in Europe as he might have done. So with that in mind, with both things, the owners thought, you know what, we're going to get rid of this guy. He's not playing the flow in football. He's not delivering in Europe. We need something more. We've delivered our league title. They still wanted league titles, but they wanted it done with a flourish. They were the richest club in the world at this point, and to win through pragmatism wasn't enough for them. So they bring in Manuel Pellegrini. Pellegrini comes in and he gives them that swashbuckling style. We've all seen what he's like at West Ham defending. Who cares about that? Sometimes he was throwing on three strikers on the pitch, be Aguero, Dzeko, Negredo. They were all on the pitch at the same time. Loads and loads of attacking midfielders on the pitch as well. He just loved an attacking player. He won the league. He delivered. He gave them the swashbuckling football that they wanted. But behind the scenes, there was scheming going on. And this was what was going to undermine Pellegrini. And I just wonder how he would have felt about that. Because City wanted Pep Guardiola. They actually wanted Pep Guardiola before he went to Bayern Munich, but they couldn't get him. So really, was Pellegrini the second best? I don't know, second choice, something like that? I'm not so sure. But when it became clear that Guardiola was going to see out the final year of his Bayern Munich contract and not sign another, they arranged to sign him. They got the agent in, but they didn't do it quietly. They didn't do it slyly. Or maybe they did it slightly, but they didn't do it quietly. It was public knowledge. So Pellegrini had to see out the last year of his Manchester City career, knowing he was a dead man walking. The whole of the last season, he had the sword of Damocles hanging over his neck. Yet, never once did he complain. He conducted himself with dignity and with class, and I'm pretty sure that, alongside the swashbuckling football that the fans came to love, is why the fans loved him so much. You speak to Man City fans, they hold Pellegrini in the highest regard. But he certainly conducted himself throughout his walk of death, if you like. He conducted himself with a class and a dignity and a way of doing things that the club just did not reciprocate with. Now, I'm just thinking here, do not mistake dignity, class, and the ability to know how to behave and act in public with a lack of desire, a lack of competitive spirit, because I think this is going to be burning deep in Pellegrini. I bet he was absolutely devastated, absolutely. When he was dropped by Manchester City, I bet he thought the behaviour of the club was disgusting. I bet Pellegrini felt he'd done a good job at Manchester City, won the league title, he'd given them the swashbuckling football, and I bet he thought he deserved a longer stay of execution, probably more backing in the transfer window, even though clearly all the Manchester City managers have had an awful lot of money to spend. But I bet he didn't know. It must have been hard working in that environment for the last season, knowing that your bosses didn't rate you, your bosses had got someone else in, your job was already taken, and actually you were just really passing the time. And just you were just there as a bit part player. Must have been very, very difficult for him. But what's that actually done to him? Has that given him the desire to put one over Man City? And I think it has. Now, of course, this is Pellegrini's second season at West Ham. He probably wanted to put one over Man City last season, but did he have the tools for the job? There were times last season when his only attacking player was Felipe Anderson. The only one that could really give him the flair that's the hallmark of his teams. But he didn't really have the tools for the job to inflict damage upon him. And this is where I think we're going to come tomorrow, because I think tomorrow Pellegrini is going to be highly motivated. I think he is going to feel that he's got the tools for the job to actually attack and really go for Man City. And that's why I don't think we're going to see Snodgrass drafted in. I don't think we're going to see pragmatism. We're going to play with 4 defenders, but let's be fair, if he goes with Masuaku and Fredericks, only 2 of those 4 defenders want to defend. Declan Rice is going to have a hell of a job sat in front of the back 4, and it's easy to concentrate on the negatives. And if you watched the preview last night, I did actually predict that I didn't think that they would win. I didn't think that West Ham would win. I think Manchester City will probably beat us, and all evidence would suggest that. But bearing in mind what's happened, just because he's a dignified man, just because he's a classy man, just because he keeps his thoughts to himself, don't think for a second that Pellegrini doesn't want to stick 2 fingers up at Manchester City. Don't think he doesn't want to show them what they're missing. He's going to want to show that actually, tactically, he can get one over on Guardiola. Whether he can or whether he can't, well, still remains to be seen. But he's going to want to prove it. And I just think he is going to feel that he's got the tools for the job. So he's going to send out Fornals, he's going to send out Wilshere, he's going to send out Lanzini, Anderson, with Sebastian Haller up front. And he is going to try and take it to him. And I can't blame him. I really don't blame him at all. I think this is probably the most motivated he's going to be throughout all the season. So whilst we might go there, we're facing a formidable foe. I'm excited about tomorrow because I do think we're going to go for it. Unfortunately, having said all of that, I'm going to miss the game because I'm at a wedding. But as soon as I get out, I will be hurriedly searching my phone and hoping that we see something a little bit juicy, that we've got to win. So for all of you that are going, for all of you who enjoy it, I think we're a swashbuckler.